pick the odd one out. G'day guys, today we have 4 routers on the table. These are trim routers, laminate trimmers, palm routers, take your pick, call them what you want. We have the Milwaukee, the HiKOKI, the Makita and the DeWALT. I'm not going to give you model numbers because these are the only ones each one of these companies make. Or does this one actually do a 36 volt? These are all 18 volt tools. We are going to take a look at these 4 tools. We're going to take a look at their features. We're going to take a look at the accessories they come with, and we are going to grade them, and then we're going to see which one's got the most power. We'll give them a point system. We'll see which one of these is the best according to the system I come up with. The winner of each category in the tests will get some marks on this board in the background here. So there'll be 3 points for the winner in each round, 2 points for second place, 1 point for third, and 0 points for last. Let's take a look at what those categories are going to be. Let's start with weight. For this category, I'm going to give maximum points for the lightest tool. Now, some people might like the extra bit of weight to help keep it balanced, but you don't want these things too heavy because you've got to hold them in one hand, and if you're running them all day, doing a lot of edging and stuff, then you want them fairly light. You also don't want them too top heavy with the batteries. We'll take a look at that as we go through the video as well. So for this weight test, you better keep track because I'm not going to remember them all by the time I get to the 4th one. I am weighing them with the router inside the fixed base with the dust port on all 4 models. So let's go, starting with the DeWALT. 1,635 grams. That's pretty heavy. Makita, 1,458. HiKOKI, 1,202. Over 400 grams lighter than the DeWALT. And the Milwaukee, 1,417. So if I do recall, it was this order. HiKOKI, Milwaukee. Let's just check the Makita again. I can't quite. Yep. Makita and then DeWALT. 3 points, 2 points, 1 point. There's not a lot to tell you about numbers with these tools. They are all variable speed. HiKOKI 10,000 to 30,000 RPM, Milwaukee 10,000 to 31,000, Makita 10,000 to 30,000, and the DeWALT a little bit different, 16,000 to 25,500. So the lower speed is much higher and the higher speed is much lower. A far smaller range on the DeWALT. Will that harm it? We will see as we go along. Let's take a look at the features, basic that they are on these tools, and then we will have a look at the features that come with the bases. Now, all 4 of them have a dial for the variable speed that we just spoke about. They go up to 5, 6, 6, and 7 on the dials, so I prefer the 5. Dial on the end on these 2 and on the sides on these 2. Personal preference on where those are doesn't really worry me that much because once you have the tool and you know where they are, well, they're fairly easy to all get to. I guess you just don't want it somewhere where you're going to accidentally bump it. The Makita's is recessed back the best. Yeah, they're all pretty much the same, so I don't think I'll give any points just for the dials. Power switches, though, are a bit different. This one and this one, which you might classify as the 2 American brands, are just a rocker style switch with a rubber protective cover over it. And the DeWALT one's a little bit harder to tell sort of where it is and whether it's on or off. And so when you have to reset them, if you have a jam or a stoppage, they're not great. The Makita and the HiKOKI have a safer system. On the Makita, you have a lock, which unlocks the tool, turns the lights on, and then bang, power. And then if you turn that off, the tool will stay on for about 10 seconds before it cuts out again completely. This stops you from accidentally bumping it on. If you had the battery on this and you threw it in your toolbox or you chucked a spanner or something in it, could flick it on. Where that's pretty unlikely with this because it has to click those 2 buttons in the right order for it to work. And the HiKOKI is something similar but better probably because they're not even right next to each other. They're on opposite sides of the tool. So you turn it on here, which gives you a battery gauge. Pretty weak battery gauge because it's only got 2 lights and most batteries have lights on them now anyway, although I know a lot of the old HiKOKI ones don't. Anyway, so you turn it on there and then push this little trigger in the front. So when you're using it, you can sort of use it pistol style to turn it on and off. And it has about a 10-second cutout on it like the Makita. We'll look at the gauges and stuff on them when we look at the bases. So the last thing really on the base is the collet area. So we have the lock for the collet and the collets themselves. The collet locks are very similar on the Makita and the HiKOKI. Basic as, works fine. The Milwaukee one I don't like that much. It's the same sort of system, but it's just a bit harder to get your finger into. The Makita one I like the most. You push it in, and then when you turn it, it sort of locks so that you can then wrench away. Whereas this one, you've really got to keep your fingers stuck in there. And the DeWALT has a fairly good button. It locks in more places, I think, the DeWALT than the others. Certainly more than the Makita and the HiKOKI, which only do it every 180 degrees. And then the collets and the nuts holding them in place. The HiKOKI and the Makita both have separate nuts from the collets, which means you can get more collets and easily swap them out and not have to have another nut that has the collet already in, like these two, which are both captive nuts. I do like captive nuts. I find them easier to find and stuff. But if you want to buy lots of different collets, I have 4 different ones for this Makita, and I only need the one nut. Whereas with this, I would have to go out and find the nut with the collet already in it. I'm sure you can probably prise them out and get another one stuck in there of the right sort, but it's a little bit harder. But I do prefer the captive ones when you're trying to find them and store them and that sort of thing. So it's a bit tricky to give out points on all these different features. But I'm going to say the HiKOKI has the best switch system, followed by the Makita, followed by probably the Milwaukee. As for the collet locks, best, second best, last. And as for the collets themselves, this one does not do 6mm. This one, the 1/4 inch, which is 6.35mm, will do 6.35 and 6. This will do only 6.35, but I have bought a separate one that does 6. This one will do 6.35 and 6. So those two, you can use those 2 different sorts without having to get extra collets. These two you cannot. In the tests later you will see this one running a 6mm, and I had to do something I wouldn't normally do and I do not recommend. I shimmed it. So am I going to divvy out points for those features? I guess I've got to divvy out points for something. So what was it? We'll go switches, the HiKOKI, followed by the Makita, followed by the Milwaukee. 3, 2, 1. The collet locks and the collets. Ooh, it's a tricky one, that one, isn't it? So I don't like the lock on that, but I like the collet. It does the 6mm. That one does the 6mm. It's got the nice basic collet lock. Although looking at them, I think the Makita one's going to last longer and it locks in a bit better than this one does. This one is already sort of damaging the shaft. Ooh, it's tricky. It's tricky. And this has got the collets that are captive, but doesn't do 6mm. Ooh. By the way, this one comes with 1/4 inch and 8mm. This one comes with 1/4 inch and 8mm as well, I do believe. No, it only came with 1/4. Yeah, I think that only came with 1/4. This one comes with 1/4 and 3/8, and this one comes with 1/4 and 8mm. It's so hard to know which one of these has got the best collet and everything. Oh. But I guess this one will do the 6, which I'm happy about. It'll do the 1/4, it'll do the 8s, and it has the right sort of lock. So we're going to go 3 again, and then I'm going to go, what am I going to go? Oh. This one does 6 and the 1/4 inch and the 1 collet, and it's captive nut, so I like that. But I don't like that. What do you reckon I should do? I'm not going to give out any points for the collets, it's just too damn confusing. Now when it comes to the fixed bases that come with these tools, you'll see 3 of them are fairly similar, and one of them on the end in yellow tried to reinvent the wheel. This one is very different from these 3. These 3 are the same basic principle. These 2 are very similar. This one is slightly more advanced, and this one's just like, what? How the hell do I work that? So we'll go through them in the order that they are on the table at the moment. The HiKOKI comes on and off like so. It has 2 areas for the rack and pinion, so you can have it 2 different ways. So you can have the on and off switch on one side or the other side, depending on how you want to hold it and the balance ratio of your battery, so that's quite handy. It has a adjustment knob, as you can see here, which is very similar to the Makita that we all know. You just rock it back and forth like so, lock it in place. It's a very stiff lock. Might need some adjustment there really. very tight. We've got some imperial and metric measurements to help you out there if you so desire. Lock it in place, open it, move it, lock it in place. It's all plastic with nice soft fake rubber overmolding. But yeah, all plastic this one. The other three are aluminium predominantly, but this one, I'm not sure what sort of plastic it is, but it's pretty tough. It's not flexing or anything like that, so nothing wrong there. Helps keep the weight down presumably, and the price. The Makita, very similar, same sort of thing, pretty loose. It's hard to get an accurate sort of depth adjustment with this one or the HiKOKI, because as soon as you unlock it, whoop, sort of moves and stuff. So when you unlock them, you sort of need to go sort of halfway, give it a bit of a tweak, and then lock it in place so that you don't go woof, and then the thing goes like that. So yeah, very loose. It's probably got a bit loose over time as well, as I've had it quite some time. Completely aluminium, as you can see, and just comes with a black round polycarbonate base. I think it's polycarb. Might not be polycarb. Feel free to attack me down below. But pretty plain, simple, does the job. Forgot to mention as well, this one has a knob on the side, the same as this, for attaching your fence, which we'll look at in a moment. The Milwaukee, similar system as well, except when you unlock it, you have a button that you have to push to release it, to slide it up. So you can go whoop, and let it go and lock it in place, whoop, lock it in place, whoop, lock it in place. Very cool. And then you have a dial here to finally tune your tool before you lock it in place. Although I have found it still moves very easily when it's locked in place. I guess I need to tighten this up somehow, because that's no good when it's vibrating away when you're using the tool and it's just slowly moving around. So these ones lock very tightly, this one not so much. But I like the system, I like the style where you go woof and then let go and lock it in and then dial it to exactly where you want. It has measurements on the side in metric and imperial also. So the base, fairly much the same size as the other ones, and you have the knob for the fence. They've gone with these triangular knobs, which I find really uncomfortable. When they're really tight, they hurt your fingers like buggery trying to get them undone. But there's something else I will tell you about that one in just a moment. This one is aluminium as well as the Makita. Also aluminium is the DeWALT. And there's the base, a little bit different. We've got round on one side and we've got a straight edge on the other. But that's not the main big different bit. The big different bit is unlock it, pull these two little trigger things, and then it comes off. And then what's going on here? We have a spiral running around the outside of this thing. Why did they go to this much effort, I hear you say? Is it really better? Well, I'm still not sold on the idea. It's much more annoying to get the thing back on. When you get it back on, you sort of click it in place like so. And then to adjust it up and down, you turn this, which is kind of cool. But it's not as easy to quickly slide up and down like the other one to get it in the right place. You've got to sort of dial through. And you then lock it in place. But I've found that when you're holding it, I found this ring still can turn. If you've got your hand on it, and it sort of vibrates around, and that ends up changing your depth. And if it goes the other way, it sort of just comes off altogether. And for setting the depth, you have this little dial here, which you can turn to this tiny little notch here underneath the W on the DeWALT. And then when you turn it, if your eyesight's perfect and you're in the right lighting and everything, you can see there's some notches on that yellow ring. You know, you can hardly see the damn thing. It's okay, but it's like they've just tried too hard to be different from everybody else just for the sake of it. Not a big fan. Not only that, because of the way they've done it, this is way bigger than the others, which guys with big hands might like, you know. But when you're used to holding the ones the same size as these, and it fits nicely in the palm of your hand, when you go to use this, totally different sort of feeling beast. These three all have splits in them, so you clamp it tight. This one has no split. As you can see, you're just clamping it with this lever, which pushes that little plate in there. It's not as good as far as I'm concerned. Doesn't have enough pressure, and I'm guessing you're going to have to adjust that quite a bit. I haven't used this much to know exactly how much of a pain that could be. yeah, I'm not sold on it. And when it comes to the base, it also comes with another base, as does the Milwaukee. So you get a perfectly round base with a large area for templates, yet they're too big for standard templates, so I'm not sure exactly what to put in there. And here's one that will fit standard, what are they, 32 millimeters, 35 millimeters, whatever they're called, those brass template guides. Chuck them in there and you have a nice wide base. I've used this base quite a bit. It's good when you want to route certain things. You don't want the edge of your router dipping into where you've already cut. So you put this on, gives you a bit of extra room. You can put handles on it so you can push it around. Nice little extra feature. But what exactly this one's for, I'm not sure. It doesn't look like you can put a standard one in there either. These two you can just. They have the area and a little lip designed for them. They come with them. The DeWALT did not seem to come with any template guide. So once again, they seem to be just making changes for the sake of it, just to be different, just to try and stand out. So which one do I prefer? These two come with two bases, bonus. That one, not really sure what it's for, so These two, pretty basic. This one has the nicest adjustment, I think, but I probably need to tighten it up a bit. None of them are very accurate. They're all a bit iffy. Basically, I measure everything off the base to the point on the router bit, rather than trusting any of these measurements. But I think overall, combination-wise, this one is the best because it has the two bases and they do what I need them to do, and it has this fine adjustment and the better slide system. 3 points. Who's getting the 2 and the 1? That is the tricky thing. These two both have plunge bases as optional accessories, and I think the DeWALT one does as well. These two also both have offset bases. I don't know if this one does, and I don't know what HiKOKI accessories are currently available, being that this is a new tool and I'm not sure what they have from other tools that might fit it, so don't know about those, so I can't really give points on that, but these two have very good extras. But I'm getting sidetracked here. We are trying to dish out the points. I'm going to go 3 points. I don't like that, so I'm going to go 3, 2, 1. They all come with dust chutes. Now when I say they all come with dust chutes, some of these accessories and stuff may not be the same where you live, okay? Don't hang me for that, please. Some countries you might have to pay for this separately, or the bases might be separate, or the different collets will be different sizes, just the way these companies do it. I can't memorize every single feature of every tool on every continent. So once again, one company has tried to be too damn clever. So they've made this multi-piece plastic thing, which is overly complicated. At least it does have the screws captive, which is quite nice. But it also has one right in the middle of your dust chute that's going to jam up with dust, so that's kind of stupid. And these are extraordinarily fiddly to wind in. They're hard to actually get to. But worse than all of those is that. This, yep, on. Bit tight on this one, but on. I can't find anything that'll fit it. Fail again. These three, they're pretty much the same, except the newest one has done something slightly better than these two managed to do, and that's put a little notch so you don't have to unscrew the extraordinarily long screws that they give you for these things, which take a millennium to wind in. You can just hook it around because it has that little notch. It also is quite good the way that goes over that and then locks over onto those ridges there. So I'm going 3. This one has the worst screw on it, another one of those triangle ones, so we'll go 3, 2, 1. Now even though I am the one making this video, I am kind of shocked that there's no points on the DeWALT side yet. That's, yeah, curious. Oh well, I think they've just tried too hard to change stuff. When it comes to the fences, guess what? 3 of them are basically the same, and one of them has tried to rewrite the rulebook again. These 3 all work the same way. You have a knob on the outside of the base. You slide your fence over and you do it up. You can then adjust it to slide it out. Pretty simple. Each of them also has 2 separate holes so you can move things around, make them longer, shorter, that sort of thing. This one, however, has this base here, which doesn't slot on. You have to slide it in here and then put 2 screws in. 2 screws which in theory you keep here. Screw storage. That's what it says in tiny little letters there. In theory, that's quite good that they've put that there. But if you're a lazy, messy bastard like myself, you're never going to put those back in there. You're going to lose those so fast. Not only that, when I want to put this on here, what have I got to do? I've got to go find a screwdriver as well. Thankfully, there's one here laying on the bench because there always is, pretty much. But if there isn't, I've got to go find a Phillips screwdriver to screw it on. I'm going to be most peeved, especially when I quickly just want to do a simple cut. So, now, some of you will say, well, it's better because you don't have that knob in the way of your hand. The knobs on these all get in the way of your hand when you're holding them. They're in a very bad position. I usually take them off. I've only put them back on for the video, but that's not usually on there. I only put it on there when I need it so that it's not rubbing on my hand. So the DeWALT is better in that regard, and maybe that's why they did it, or maybe they just didn't want this thing looking any bulkier. Now, it does look a lot longer, but unlike the other ones, you don't have any extra movement once you get to the end. There's no extra holes or anything. So if you actually look at the maximum width, this one would be screwed on the side normally, a lot bigger gap there, so this fails again. It looks big and long, but not actually that long at all. And too complicated to get on, so you're last again. These 3 are basically the same, and so I'm going to just give them 1 point each. I know there's going to be some yellow lovers hating on this video. So far we have HiKOKI on 12 points, Makita on 7, Milwaukee on 8, DeWALT 0. But all of those points count for bugger all if they're no good at actually routing, if they haven't got any power, if they're no nice to use, all that sort of thing. So we better go check that out. Hey, they all do small stuff, nice, this, you know, all these sort of little round over bits and stuff, which is what you use these things for primarily. And they're all great for that, unless of course you've got small hands, and then this one may not be too good for you. So I'm not going to show me testing these ones on these, no point in doing these little ones. I'm just going to do a power test. I'm going to use this bit here. It's 32 millimeters. It's got a 6mm shaft, which means I had to pack this one out, as I'm sure I said earlier. I'm going to use this bit in every router. We're going to cut a 10mm deep channel. I'm going to start off slow, just see how they go. If they cope okay, I'll push a bit harder. We'll see which ones cut out, don't cut out, go fast, go slow, smoke it up, whatever. When it comes to using large bits like this, there is no problem with the DeWALT, no problem with the Milwaukee, no problem with the HiKOKI, but you will find if you want to plunge that through the base of your Makita, you are going to have to physically plunge it through the base. You do actually need to cut a slightly bigger hole. It's not a big deal, it's only a tiny little bit. You can still use the other fittings in there, they still work okay, but you are going to have to cut the base. So I'm going to take a point off the Makita for that. And because this is a power round, I think we should have power points. We're going to double the points. 6 points for first place, 4 for second, 2 for third. Who's going to win? Who's going to take out the power tests? Let's go. What batteries am I going to use? What contention is that going to cause? I am going to use the 8 amp hour multi-volt battery on this. I'm going to use a 5 amp hour on this, not a 6, because the 5s are better. Trust me. I am going to give this a crack with the 12 amp hour high output. I'll then also run it with the 6 just to show you what that looks like. And this will be running with a 6 amp hour flex volt battery. Well, I don't need to go watch the footage to know which one of those did the best. So they are in order from worst to best. This thing kicked some butt power-wise when it came to that test. It smashed everybody else by a long shot. The Makita struggled and struggled. The HiKOKI struggled slightly less. The Milwaukee did admirably well, but the DeWALT just hammered it. It was the only one that could realistically run this cutting the way I was. People will be saying, you shouldn't be doing that deep, should be doing it multiple passes, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I know, this is a power test. This is YouTube. This isn't reality. I'm trying to see which one of these has the power if you do want to push through things, you don't want stalling, that sort of thing, and it is by a long shot this puppy. It even smashed the Milwaukee with a 12 amp hour high output battery. If I had a better battery on this, who knows what it could have done. It was markedly better, just miles ahead of the others. These two showed that they couldn't really do that task at all, and the Milwaukee, you'd get away with it if you didn't want to do too much. So that means 6 points, 4 points, 2 points. What's happened to my scoreboard? It seems to have vanished. Now my scoring system, if you look at the back there at the numbers, we have HiKOKI in the lead, Milwaukee second, and DeWALT and Makita last. Now I think something's gone wrong there because I don't think this is the best router here. I think this one is better than that one. And when it comes to power, wow, that one much better. I don't like some of the features on here, but I'm pretty sure I'd get used to it, especially if I needed power. That is a very good router. So it's a bit of a tricky one here, guys. I don't know exactly how to call this, but I would say Makita is out of the running for the top spot, most definitely. It was the first one. They're probably not too far along from coming up with their next iteration of this, so that could be interesting. They may even put out a 40 volt max one, which would be awesome, so I'll keep a lookout for that. The HiKOKI, I wish I knew about the 36 volt one before I started filming this video. If these two companies put out a 36 volt one, though, it will be quite interesting if they can just get that a little bit more power, a little better runtime on the battery, cooler running. Might be quite interesting if they can have that extra sort of torque you get with the bigger motors so you don't get the stalling. That would be very cool. But at this stage, this one also, even though it's got the most points on the board, I would not say that that router is better than these two. These two overall are better. They have some better features, even though I'm not a fan of this one entirely, but I'm sure I would get used to it. It's a very good router when it comes to power. The power just sort of blew me away. This thing will be able to do tasks for you that these ones are not capable of. So it gets a lot of bonus points for that. You could almost do things at the half-inch sort of level, but of course you can't fit them in there. And if DeWALT could put out a 54 volt one, wow, that'd just be something to behold. So I think it's really a toss-up between these two if you want a good, powerful, all-round little router. And really it comes down to personal preference on how you like this system of depth adjustment to this one. That's the main difference, apart from, of course, the power. Oh, bugger it. I guess I'm just going to have to say this is the best one. I mean, it has power to burn. It was hard to stall. I had to really push it quite quick to stall it. These two I had to go so slow, trying not to stall them. The Milwaukee, well, it gets hot and just starts stalling. The batteries can't hack it. So I'm going to call it like this. Total reversal of what you see on the board. In first place, the DeWALT. Second place, Milwaukee. Third place, HiKOKI. Poor old Makita in last. Thanks for watching. I've done a few more of these sort of videos, as you can see in the background there. Hammer drills, angle grinders, impact drivers, and nail guns. And I will see you on one of those soon. If I haven't already put them up before this one or whatever, who knows what order I'm putting these out in. So thanks for watching. I'm looking forward to a 36 volt one of those and one of those to see if they can knock this off the top of the chart, because power wise that thing is a little beast. But not great if you got small hands. I guess this test, guys, just didn't fall into the conforms of a scoring system. There's just too many variables. Thanks for watching. I will see you on another one real soon. Cheers, guys. I do prefer these three when you're just doing small stuff running along the edges of things. Anywho,